people tell me they can't afford to buy groceries, they can't afford to heat our homes, and that's hard to hear from, Mr. Speaker. So through you to our honourable colleague, I appreciate his comments about the telecoms, but this carbon tax is making life more unaffordable for Canadians. What's he have to say about that and his party's
All right, well, we are out of time, but maybe I'll just a 10-second response to the honourable member for Windsor West.
Yeah, I didn't quote anybody in my speech, and so I guess that I won't even answer the question since I didn't quote anybody. That member hopefully will listen to my next speech.
Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for London North Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to honour the life of Londoner Claude Pensa, who sadly passed away recently at the age of 93. The proud son of Italian immigrants, he never forgot his roots, and his family was incredibly proud of him as a result. They're also proud of him for practicing the law for 57 years, namely at the firm he co-founded, Harrison Pensa. Widely respected for his skills as a litigator, he was a recipient of the Law Society Medal for his contributions to the field, for example. He also found ways to mentor young lawyers, shaping not only their careers for the better, but for their lives for the better as well, Mr. Speaker. But what was especially admired was his compassion. Along with his wife Elaine, they formed Lawyers Feed the Hungry in 2003, and since that time, Mr. Speaker, $500,000 has been raised by that campaign in support of local hunger relief programs. He was an extraordinary person. He touched everyone's lives for the positive. He's not forgotten in London, nor will he ever be. And I had the opportunity to know him a little bit, Mr. Speaker. I won't forget the advice he gave me just before I became elected in 2015 for the first time. Thank you so much, Claude. We will miss you.
The honourable member for Regina Wascana.
Mr. Speaker, this week Rider Nation lost one of its all-time greats. George Reed, number 34 for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, passed away just one day shy of his 84th birthday. George played all 13 seasons of his CFL career for the Green and White, from 1963 to 1975. During this time, his on-field performance was nothing short of incredible. He was the regular season MVP in 1965, the Grey Cup MVP in 1966, and his 134 rushing touchdowns is a CFL record that still stands to this day. After retiring from football, George continued to make Saskatchewan his home, devoting himself to charitable causes such as the Special Olympics. For his charitable work and for his football career, George was awarded the Order of Canada. When the Saskatchewan Roughriders pay tribute to George at tomorrow's game in Regina, I'm sure he will be looking down on us, smiling, and cheering on the Green and White.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, today marks a profound moment for human rights, women's rights, and Iranian people for freedom. With the backdrop of a 16-year-old girl, Armita Garavan, currently in coma for the past 2 days, early this morning we heard that the distinguished 2023 Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to Narges Mohammadi, an Iranian human rights activist, for her dedication to fighting for human rights and women's rights over the past 3 decades. Narges Mohammadi, who is currently in prison, has been campaigning for Iran for over 3 decades against systematic discrimination and oppression of women in Iran and fighting for freedom and democracy. Her brave fight has come with tremendous personal cost. She's been arrested 13 times, convicted 5 times, and cumulatively sentenced to more than 30 years in prison. As she's held captive, this recognition provides an enduring testament to her tireless civic and peaceful work. Today, yet again, we witness the fueling flame of the women life freedom movement, and its torch now igniting the hearts and spirit of brave women across the world. In Nargis's own word, "Azadi asan nist, vali qat'i ist." Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Nunavut.
I thank 3 Inuit for inspiring my speech. Bernadette Mikosak Dane is an artist, and I met her before she pursued her artistic talents, and I have always admired her for her strength. Annie Curley blends her comedic sense of humor with teaching she learned as an Inuk with bird sounds she imitates in her crafts. Ashton Kablutsak is my son's cousin. I recently discovered his talent for drawing complicated art pieces that showcases his pride as an Inuk. They shared with me the shifts they are helping to create in becoming productive adults wanting to help each other. That shift must be from always talking about intergenerational trauma to talking about intergenerational love. I encourage all Indigenous peoples to let go of the anger and pain they hold on to. We must pass on intergenerational love to our children and grandchildren. Let us speak up and show that we are still here. The
Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, almost 20 years ago, shortly after immigrating from Lebanon, Majdi Bou Matar founded Empty Space, an incredible arts organization in Waterloo region that centers marginalized and racialized artists and stories in our community. His goal at the time was to establish an international theater festival within 10 years. Sadly, Majdi passed away suddenly last June, and our community continues to grieve his loss. But Empty Space has shifted what we consider mainstream theater in our community, and the festival Majdi envisioned years ago continues to grow. This year marked Empty Space's full return to live and in-person theater with Impact 23. Over the course of 6 days, they pretty much took over downtown Kitchener, bringing together artists from 8 different countries to stage 20 productions indoors and outdoors. To Pam and the entire Empty Space team and board, thanks for your leadership, for challenging our preconceptions of theater, and your tireless work creating space for voices that need to be heard. Thank you.
L'Honorable Député de Vimy.
Mr. Speaker, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight an important organization, Pink in the City, that has been supporting breast cancer awareness for over 17 years. And on October 27th, Pink in the City will be hosting its annual Magic of Hope Gala in my riding of Vimy. To date, it has raised over $2 million for cancer research, state-of-the-art medical equipment, and programs that promote wellness and research for metastatic breast cancer. Monsieur le Président, le cancer du sein peut...
Mr. Speaker, breast cancer can affect us all when it affects our mothers, sisters, and daughters. In Canada, 1 woman in 8 is likely to develop breast cancer during her lifetime. We know that the key to treatment is early detection.
It is important that we support those around us and do everything we can to prevent it. I encourage all members to do whatever they can to support the fight against breast cancer this month and year-round. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians and victims' families want answers. They want accountability, and they want transparency from this Liberal government. For 5 months, the Liberals have done everything in their power to prevent the Public Safety Committee from investigating the transfer of notorious killer Paul Bernardo from a maximum security prison. Canadians deserve to know why this was allowed to happen. Victims' families deserve to know why they were only consulted after this transfer took place. And all of us need to know why this Liberal government sat on this information for months until it was already too late to take action. After 8 years under these Liberals, the rights and privileges of mass killers has taken priority over the rights of victims and their families to receive basic care and consideration. Conservatives won't let the Liberals sweep this scandal under the rug. We're going to stand up for victims and their families and make sure they get the answers they deserve.
The Honourable Member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Mr. Speaker, this past weekend I was honored to represent the constituents of Windsor-Tecumseh at the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on Parliament Hill. As Chief Mary Duckworth of Caldwell First Nation says, reconciliation is not just a word, it must be an action. This past summer, Caldwell First Nation broke ground on their first new housing development, supported by a $10 million investment from our federal housing initiative. And thanks to the leadership of Chief Duckworth, Chief Miskokoman of Walpole Island First Nation, and the incredible staff at Parks Canada, Ojibwe National Urban Park will soon become the first national park in Ontario to be officially co-managed by First Nations. Truth and reconciliation is a difficult journey, but it is the right one, and it is one we must walk together. There is more work ahead, but I am proud our community is walking the path of reconciliation and working in partnership and respect with Indigenous peoples to preserve and protect our natural habitat forever. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Cloverdale-Langley City.
Mr. Speaker, October 1st was National Seniors Day. Last Friday, I met with 3 members of the National Pensioners Federation to hear about their concerns and hopes for the rights and well-being of aging people in this country. According to Statistics Canada, Canadians aged 85 and older could triple to almost 2.5 million people over the next 25 years. Many of these citizens are in my province of British Columbia, where individuals 65 and older make up nearly 20% of the population. Challenges such as the pandemic, accountability for caretakers, and the effects of climate change on human health are issues of concern for this demographic and those who care for them. The National Pensioners Federation is currently working towards a draft motion for the United Nations regarding the proposed Convention on the Rights of Older Persons, which would emphasize the critical importance of these issues. As we move into new chapters for Canada, let us honor the rights of older persons and work hard to ensure people possess the tools and care to navigate aging with security and dignity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, after 8 years, the government still has no answer for inflation. And worse, it wants to handcuff Canadians with its second carbon tax. The government keeps saying that the carbon tax doesn't affect Quebec, but that's not correct. The first carbon tax affects Quebecers indirectly and the second one directly. Quebec is not self-sufficient. We need a lot of products from all over the country. When the carbon tax is applied to these provinces, the cost of products goes up. If we tax farmers, processors, and transporters, it's obvious that prices go up. Food banks in my constituency are struggling to keep up with demand. The worst thing is that the Bloc Québécois is supporting these measures and making it worse. It costs a lot to vote for the Bloc. They proved it twice, on June 5 and last Wednesday, when they voted in favor of the carbon tax. Even worse, they want to radically increase it and make things worse for Canadians, rather. Enough's enough. It's time for common sense Conservatives to fix what the Liberal Bloc coalition broke.
The
Honourable Member for Longueuil-Charlemagne. Mr. Speaker, for many Canadians, this long weekend marks the start of the fall season. Many will spend their weekend raking leaves, harvesting what they grew this summer, and hopefully eating a delicious meal surrounded by friends and family.
We all recognize that this hasn't been an easy year for Canadians and that many are struggling with the high cost of living. That is why I'm so thankful to live in and represent a community whose members take care of one another, look out for their neighbors, and are always there to lend a hand when someone needs it. So today I say thanks, and I give thanks for the incredible generosity of the citizens of Longueuil-Charlemagne. J'adresse un chaleureux merci à tous.
My warmest thanks to all those who make a difference in my life by their presence, including all of you, dear colleagues, here in the House today. I wish a happy Thanksgiving to all my fellow citizens.
The Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
Thank you, Speaker. For too many, Thanksgiving is a painful reminder of the difficult times they're facing after 8 years under this NDP Liberal government. Let's take a trip around the Thanksgiving table. Potatoes up 77%, carrots 74%, cabbage 70%, turkey up 67%. A family of 4 will pay over $16,000 for groceries this year, all thanks to the heartless carbon taxes that are increasing inflation. When you tax the farmers who grow the food, and you tax the trucker who ships the food, then you tax everyone who buys the food. Well, you end up with a result that is Canada being less competitive and less prosperous than it was 8 years ago. Canadians know that this Prime Minister is just not worth the cost, but it doesn't have to be this way. This weekend, I am giving thanks for being part of our common sense Conservative team. When we win the responsibility of serving Canadians, we will axe the carbon taxes to bring down the cost of gas, groceries, and home heating. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll bring it home.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Shepherd.
Iran's terror regime has done it again. Another young woman, this time a 16-year-old girl, was beaten before entering Iran's subway system by Iran's so-called morality police. Armida Geravan, a young Kurdish woman from Kermanshah in Rojhelat, was beaten for not wearing a hijab and now lies in a coma in intensive care. Her story is eerily similar to the brutal beating of Gina Massa Amini, who died at the hands of the same morality police just over a year ago. And today marks a day when jailed Iranian activist Narges Mohammadi has been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, Mohammadi is a prominent human rights activist and vice president of Defenders for the Human Rights Center. She remains jailed failed by the regime. But this award serves as a slap in the face of Khamenei and the regime that he leads, that Nargis continues to bravely fight. The Liberal government has to do more. Words are not enough. They need to act, take actions, delegitimize the Iranian regime, no more international forums, no more sporting events, and list the IRGC as a terror group. Jin Jiyan Azadi, Zen Zendagi Azadi.
The honourable member for Whitby.
Mr. Speaker, this past weekend I attended an event on National Day for Truth and Reconciliation at the Durham Community Health Centre. At that event, a residential school survivor shared his experience and healing journey. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge Bernard Nelson, a residential school survivor from the Ibamatong First Nation north of Thunder Bay, who dug deep into his painful past and told his story for over an hour. I have to say, Mr. Speaker, I was horrified to hear a first-hand account of the abuse that this man had suffered, having been separated from his mother at a very young age, being physically, sexually, and psychologically abused at the residential school, and regularly beaten and taught to feel like he didn't belong and was worthless. As this courageous man opened up and told his story from his early years through to an adulthood filled with substance use and justice system involvement and the corresponding impacts on his family and children, he painted a portrait of the legacy of residential schools in Canada. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart how grateful I was to Bernard Nelson for speaking his truth and for the opportunity to hear his story.
The honourable member for Esquimalt Saanich-Sooke.
In the face of increased global conflict and natural disasters, it's now more important than ever to ensure that the Canadian Armed Forces have the support they need to do the difficult and dangerous work we ask them to do on our behalf every day. With this Liberal government now talking austerity and cuts, we need to make sure that serving members, their families, and DND employees don't pay the price of pursuing cutbacks instead of fair taxes. Under the guise of updating Canada's military housing support, this government has already announced it will be taking $30 million out of the pockets of military families. This cut will hit particularly hard in communities like mine, where rental prices continue to soar and there's a serious lack of on-base housing. Cuts like this don't just damage the well-being of serving families, they compromise Canada's military operations. We already have a staffing crisis in the Canadian Forces with at least 10,000 vacant positions, and thus our military readiness is compromised. One thing Canada can't afford is making life harder for those who serve and for their families.
The honourable member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, it's too early to put your festive spirit away. Festival season stretching out a little longer this year. Drummondville is going to be pulsing to the beat of traditional music in an ambience reminiscent of New Orleans. It's the second edition of the Festival Trad-Cajun in Woodyat Park. Organizer Steve Veilleux put together a sizzling lineup featuring Salbarbe, Nicolas Pellerin, Les Grands Hurleurs, Lendemain de Veille, and many more. The atmosphere will be festive, as Drummond is known for. But the cultural community is not in a festive mood. Right now, show presenters and festival organizers are getting nothing but bad news from the government. Cuts of 25 to 30% of their funding, often announced at the very last second. They deserve our support. Culture deserves our support. More than that, better than that, and faster than that. To festival organizers and concert promoters, thank you for promoting our artists. To Steve Veilleux and his team, I wish you a wild weekend. Long live the Festival Trad-Cajun.
The honourable member for Bruce Grey Owen Sound.
Mr. Speaker, this week I introduced my first bill, C-358, here in the House of Commons. This bill removes the GST from the Liberal carbon tax. Simply put, it removes the tax from the tax. After 8 years of this Liberal government, more and more Canadians are struggling to survive due to the rising costs of everyday goods. The Liberal carbon tax is yet to achieve a single emissions target. It is clear the Liberal carbon tax is a tax plan, not an environmental plan. This tax on fuel, groceries, and home heating is bad enough, but for GST to be charged afterward just adds insult to injury. The positive impact of this legislation would be felt across the country, especially in rural regions like Bruce Grey Owen Sound, where cars, trucks, and tractors are a necessity and not a choice. I encourage colleagues from all parties to side with my common sense bill and provide all Canadians with some relief by removing this tax on a tax. Mr. Speaker, this Liberal carbon tax is simply not worth the cost. Axe the tax.
Hear, 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 hear.
The honourable member for Glengarry's Prescott Russell.
Monsieur le Président, je me lève en chambre afin de reconnaître une...
I rise today to recognize someone who I met through my life, Christian Lamoureux, the husband, the father, and my friend. For many years, he fought cancer. In spite of the effects that treatment can have on patients, Christian kept his smile and his sense of optimism. Thank you for the many times we spent at the cottage. Thank you for the number of times you made us laugh. I will always remember that night at Jason's when you got our entire gang together to find your wallet, and then you found it the next morning where you left it in your bag. Christian, last Friday, the boys asked you what we could do for you. You told us to enjoy life to 100%. That is a testament to your altruistic love, even when you're suffering. Thank you for being part of our lives. And my most sincere condolences to your spouse, your children, and your family. Christian, we told you we'll see you later, and we're waiting for you to organize the hockey pool one day when we join you.
Now, before we get going, I just want to remind everyone when it comes to SO31s to try to keep them under the 1 minute, the 60 seconds, because there was a few of them that did go a little bit over. Also, the reminder: we're asking questions in our seats and we're answering the questions in our seats, because I know I see a lot of people moving around in the chamber. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Oral questions. Question orale. The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
3 weeks ago, the Prime Minister made a promise that grocery prices would come down in time for Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, an article just out on the Canadian press today, prices haven't gone down, and you're going to continue to see fairly large sticker shock on items. This is Canada after 8 years of this Liberal NDP government, Mr. Speaker, but it gets worse. The article goes on to say some people will be looking at alternatives, so they might not have a big family gathering. Happy Thanksgiving, Canada, brought to you by this Liberal NDP government. Will the Prime Minister keep his promise and get grocery prices down?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you to the honourable member for the question. Mr. Speaker, we've heard loud and clear from Canadians across this country that grocery prices need to come down. Our government gets up every morning, is working hard every day to lower those prices or stabilize those prices. Not only did we call the top largest 5 grocery CEOs to Ottawa, we got them on board to work on action plans that would help stabilize food prices for Canadians. That's just what they've done. We're seeing those actions roll out with price reductions and discounts on a basket of basic goods, and we look forward to future developments.
Well, member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Mr. Speaker, that's just entirely not accurate. None of the prices are going down. I just read an article in the Canadian press. Canadians know that all the prices are going up. In fact, the Ottawa Mission is now asking for turkeys. Why? Because the price of a turkey has gone up 67% as a result of 8 years of this NDP Liberal government. The Prime Minister made a promise 3 weeks ago, so I'm going to ask again, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister keep his promise to get grocery prices down so Canadians can have an affordable Thanksgiving, or is he just going to go back and hide in Rideau Cottage like he recently did?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is taking action with grocery CEOs. They've gotten on board. They've produced plans. They're rolling out measures. Though they don't know what each other are going to do, they're going to be competing to bring down and stabilize those prices. There's many measures that will move forward in weeks and days to come. And this is good news for Canadians, Mr. Speaker, because grocery CEOs and those chains are now competing to stabilize food prices for Canadians.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Mr. Speaker, that reminds me of when you would say things like the wheels are in motion, the check's in the mail, all those kinds of things. You know, Canadians can't eat a plan. Canadians can't eat the photo op that the Prime Minister took with grocery CEOs, because the facts are the facts. Grocery prices are way up, and they continue to go up despite these alleged plans and photo ops. Onions up 69%, potatoes up 76%, oranges up 77%, and turkeys up 67%. Will the Prime Minister keep his promise? It's not hard. He made that promise. Or will he just go off at another $200,000 vacation at taxpayer expenses in Montana?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
must be hard for the leader of the Conservative Party to really empathize with Canadians when surely he doesn't pay for turkeys at Stornoway. We know they're free. On federal leadership, we've demonstrated leadership and brought this 5 largest grocery chains to Ottawa, and we are moving forward with them to lower and stabilize food prices for Canadians. Those grocery chains are demonstrating Canadians will really be the judge of how satisfied they are with those decreases.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, after 8 years of this Liberal government, everything is more expensive in Canada. But Thanksgiving is only 2 days away, and few people are in the mood to celebrate. The Prime Minister made some promises. 3 weeks ago, he said food prices would come down for Thanksgiving. Another broken promise. But what will happen is that there will be a second carbon tax, and this will be enthusiastically supported by the Bloc Québécois. If people vote Bloc, they'll pay for it. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are, as my colleague already said, we've already begun the work with the major grocery chains. They will work with us. Prices will come down for Canadians. And what's more, we know that investments in climate change will produce results for Canadians. So we're going to work together to improve Canadians' quality of life. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. I'd like to congratulate the member opposite, the Parliamentary Secretary, on the quality of his French. Congratulations and thank you for making that effort. But that's not all, Mr. Speaker, because what he said was not quite consistent with reality. Prices are going up. The Prime Minister said they would go down. It's not true. There are always sales at this time of year, but the Liberals are too greedy. They want to raise taxes. That's the worst thing to do when people are struggling. When are they going to do the right thing? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are working with grocery stores, with the industry, but when directions are given, when the instructions are given to lower prices, that's what they're going to do. They've started doing so already. Canadians will see this in the days to come. That's the fact. The Conservatives can say whatever they want. They can shout for all they're worth. But they're not really doing anything for Canadians. Our plan will improve things for Canadians. The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, this week Radio-Canada profiled foreign workers exploited by the multinational corporation New Rest. They were told, come to Canada on a tourist visa, work for us, and we'll give you a work permit later. This, of course, was not true, and they are subjected to illegal working conditions under threat of deportation. According to the Centre des Travailleurs Immigrants, 400 people in 2 years have fallen victim to the same trap after being recruited by an employment agency, Agence Trésor. Has the Immigration Minister taken charge of this issue?
Temporary foreign workers is unacceptable. Everyone deserves to work in safe, healthy, and dignified conditions. Under our watch, we have mandated that employers provide all TFWs with information about their rights in Canada, prohibited reprisal by employers against workers who come forward with complaints, and prohibited employers from charging recruitment fees to workers. We know there is more work to do, Mr. Speaker. That's why we are strengthening our integrity measures to ensure that temporary foreign workers live and work in a safe and decent environment. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Saint Jean. Mr. Speaker, the report talks about a specific case, but it's hard to believe that's the only one. It's even harder to believe that Immigration Canada has the situation under control, having lost track of 1 million temporary immigrants. Obviously, we need to prevent this illegal exploitation in our country and crack down on criminal enterprises. But the minister must also make it known abroad that this practice is a trap. Once again, my question for the minister, what's he doing to put an end to this disgusting exploitation?
Of employment.
Mr. Speaker, temporary foreign workers have the same rights to workplace protections as Canadians. We have a requirement that employers and recruiters cannot charge or recover recruitment fees to TFWs, for example. We launched the Migrant Workers Support Program to assist TFWs in learning about and exercising their rights. We will continue engaging migrant workers support organizations, employers, and other partners to further strengthen protections for Canada's temporary foreign workers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton-Griesbach.
A glacial pace. That is how a recent report described the speed at which the Liberals have been moving to implement the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. An average of just 2 calls to action per year. At this rate, it will take 42 years to complete all of them. For a government that says they're committed to reconciliation, their actions tell a different story. When will this government pick up the pace and ensure that all the calls to action are implemented without delay?
The Honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Mr. Speaker, let's roll back the tape a bit. In 2015, when we were elected, the former Conservative government refused to meet with Indigenous leaders in this country. In fact, Indigenous leaders could not meet with the Prime Minister, could not move forward an agenda of reconciliation whatsoever. In fact, the previous Prime Minister said that an inquiry into the murdered and missing Indigenous women in this country was not on his radar. We have moved, Mr. Speaker, in tangible ways, including in equity, and we will continue to do that hard work.
The honourable member for Nunavut.
That was an disappointing response, but I'll turn to a question on uncovered hundreds of the searches that have uncovered hundreds of children's graves at former residential schools across the country. As communities grieve, they are looking for answers. Due to a lack of clarity from all levels of government, these families can't access the records they deserve. Even the government's special interlocutor is experiencing barriers. When will this government take responsibility and give Indigenous peoples the funding and access to information they need towards healing?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Nunavut for that question. Residential schools are a sad reality in Canada's history, and their painful legacy continues to be felt today across Canada. We're working in partnership to provide the resources needed as communities continue to the very important and challenging work of locating, identifying, and commemorating the remains of those who were stolen from their families and prevented from coming home. As of today, we have supported 117 commemoration and search projects for a total of $160.4 million. As more potential burial sites are found at former residential schools, we remain committed to supporting communities in addressing their own priorities as they work to.
The honourable member for Barrie-Innisfil.
Canadians are hurting, and as we head into Thanksgiving, food banks are on the front line of the cost of living and food insecurity crisis created by 8 years of this NDP Liberal government. In Barrie, food bank usage is up 94% in 1 year. Executive Director Sharon Palmer told Simco.com this week, with rents where they are, the price of gas and food where they are, we're seeing more families who are struggling. There's no evidence anywhere that the Prime Minister's promise that he made 3 weeks ago has lowered grocery prices. So where are the grocery prices and why haven't they been lowered?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Heritage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honourable, for his question. You know, our government is the only group in this only party in this House that is prepared to take action. We have called in the CEOs of the largest grocery chains. They have come back with a response. We have worked with the manufacturers. They are coming back with a response. These responses are going to result in a direct benefit to Canadians in lower prices, and that work is going to continue. We're going to hold them to account. We're going to keep holding them to account so that the affordability that Canadians deserve is delivered to them.
The honourable member for Barrie-Innisfil.
Promise hasn't been kept. The cost of living and food insecurity crisis created after 8 years of this NDP Liberal government has also hit families hard as they go to buy turkey this weekend. Prices for turkeys have shot up 67% since 2015. On top of that, potatoes are up 77%, while carrots are up 74% in the same time. The legend of the bird's power to induce sleepiness, a sort of turkey coma, is proving to be a myth as Canadians have now awakened to the fact that the Prime Minister is not worth the cost. Hear, hear. So where are the lower grocery prices that he promised 3 weeks ago?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, our government is fighting for Canadians on affordability every step of the way. We're fully seized with addressing the affordability challenges that Canadians are facing. We've called in the top 5 grocery chain CEOs to help stabilize food prices. They've come up with plans that they're now implementing. The fact that Conservatives call that a photo op, I think decisive action for Canadians. A photo op says more about them, Mr. Speaker, than it does about us. Regardless of Conservative attacks, we will keep pressing on and fighting for affordability for Canadians.
That's great. We sort of made it nice and quiet until it was question 12. Congratulations to everyone. The Honourable Member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, our Global News published a report just last week that over 7 million Canadians are struggling to put food on their tables. So let's talk turkey. Under the last Conservative government, turkey cost only $2.49 a pound, but under these Liberals, it's $1.49 that Canadians have to pay. That's a 67% increase. The Liberal NDP carbon tax is hurting everyday Canadians who are just trying to have a nice Thanksgiving dinner with their families. After 8 long years of these Liberals, Canadians have had enough. So why aren't these Liberals axing the carbon tax so Canadians can bring home affordable dinners this Thanksgiving weekend?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, for days and days I listened to Conservatives across the way filibuster a bill that will really make a difference. When you talk about competition, as a government, we want to see competition. That's one of the reasons why we called to Ottawa the 5 major grocery chains. What do the Conservatives say? It's an op. When it comes to legislation, what do? Talk, Mr. Speaker. They're not prepared to get behind Canadians when they need to be there in a very real and tangible way. Stand up and vote for the legislation.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
That sounded like a bunch of gobbledygook. But my writing, some of the best turkey producers are in all of Canada. But the Liberal NDP carbon tax is increasing the cost to feed their turkeys and heat their barns. When the Liberals tax the farmers who grow the food and tax the trucker who ships the food, Canadians have to pay more to buy the food. Canadians know that this Liberal NDP coalition is just not worth the cost. So will the Prime Minister stop his photo ops, get back to work, and axe the carbon tax, or is he just going to wreck Thanksgiving for everyone?
Exactly. The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to remind my colleague that the dairy farmers of Canada have committed that to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. The Egg Farmers Association of Canada have also announced that they want to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. The Grain Growers Association of Canada, Mr. Speaker, have also committed to reach net zero by 2050. Farmers understand how climate change is impacting their sector and how we need to put measures in place to fight it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. Mr. Speaker, after 8 years of this government, Canada is in debt, torn apart, and humiliated. Despite this, the Bloc Québécois is supporting the Liberals on the carbon tax 2.0. They've even voted in favour of this tax twice. Now the Bloc is calling for the tax to be radically increased. If you vote for the Bloc, you'll pay for it. With Thanksgiving just around the corner, what does the government intend to do to ensure that Canadians can have the nice dinner they were promised? The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think a lot of Canadians are wondering why the Conservative Party of Canada is supporting the Alberta Premier, Danielle Smith. $30 billion is at risk. They say they're in favor of clean energy and the free market. So why is that party preventing progress? And are they going to do this in Quebec too? Will the Conservatives oppose the development of clean energy in Quebec, in Nova Scotia, and in Ontario? I think Canadians are entitled to know. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse. The Liberals' inflationary taxes supported by the Bloc are having a serious impact. According to a recent survey, 46% of consumers buy on price at the expense of quality, and 63% fear these choices will have a negative impact on their health. And contrary to what the Bloc would have us believe, the Carbon Tax 2.0 applies in Quebec and raises the cost of everything. It's simple, Mr. Speaker. Can this government show some empathy and cancel both carbon taxes? It's very simple. The Honourable Minister of the Environment. What I find incomprehensible, Mr. Speaker, is that in 2023 there's a party aspiring to form government with no plan to fight climate change. They have nothing to say to the tens of thousands of Quebecers who were affected by floods, by wildfires, and so on, who were displaced in Quebec and elsewhere in the country. But the Bloc is saying, the Conservative Party, rather, is saying, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make pollution free. We're going to encourage people to pollute even more, to pollute our air, to pollute our water, and to undermine our health. That's the Conservative Party's plan. The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, our small and medium-sized businesses can't repay their emergency account loans on time after being squeezed by inflation. If the federal government doesn't offer them flexibility, 250,000 of them will go bankrupt next year, according to the Federation of Independent Businesses. The Quebec National Assembly has heard their desperate plea and is unanimously calling on the federal government to substantially extend the deadline for repayment of loans granted through the emergency account. Mr. Speaker, will the government listen to the National Assembly and do something about this?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the things that we recognize is the small businesses in Canada is the backbone of our Canadian economy in all regions of our country. That is one of the reasons why we developed during the pandemic programs such as loan supports, rent supports, wage losses supports, Mr. Speaker, because we understand the importance of small businesses to Canada. The Minister will continue to work with small business to ensure that we're there to have their back and protect our jobs into the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, that's not clear. We're talking about the emergency account. The National Assembly is all saying the same thing. We're heading for 250,000 small businesses going bankrupt unless Ottawa assesses each case and offers deferrals as needed. If the federal government thinks it's going to get its money back faster with 250,000 bankruptcies, they're mistaken. If the federal government thinks it's profitable to put the employees of all those companies out of work, they're wrong. When will this government see reason? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
We had made an announcement just recently that saw a bit of an extension. We are very much aware of the pains that small businesses are experiencing, due in good part because of the pandemic. And as I say, as a government, whether it's been reducing taxes for small businesses, whether it's been there to support them in regards to, as made reference to rent subsidies, wage losses, CEBA loans, the Government of Canada is there for small businesses because we recognize just how important they are to our economy in all regions of our country.
The Honourable Member for Coastal Bays, Central Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, after 8 years, this NDP Liberal coalition has driven demand for food banks to a 42-year high. The Liberal MP for Avalon said, "I've had people tell me they can't afford to buy groceries." CTV News has reported that a large number of people can't afford Thanksgiving dinner this year. For those people, especially, and this Prime Minister to them is not worth the cost. So, will he axe the carbon tax to lower prices, or will he break his promise to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
What I find ironic is that member opposite purports himself to stand up for fish harvesters. But you know what? The fishers across this country tell us that climate change is real, that they are concerned about the future of fish harvest, about the future of their economies in local communities. So if the member opposite cares about affordability in Newfoundland and Labrador, why do they vote against technology and advancement in industry to fight climate change and ultimately protect fish harvesters in Newfoundland and Labrador?
The Honourable Member for Coastal Bays, Central Notre Dame.
Speaker, Parliamentary Secretary should know better.
And our 23 buddies from Atlantic Canada should know better, because they all voted against the motion to axe carbon tax that we put forward earlier this week. The lone holdout over there, the Liberal member for Avalon, said that everywhere he goes, people are losing faith in the Liberal Party.
Yep.
To lower food prices in a province like Newfoundland and Labrador, so dependent on fuel for shipping, carbon tax has to go. So will this Prime Minister axe the tax to lower prices for food in Newfoundland and Labrador, or will he break his promise to the people?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, over the course of the past 8 years, we've had a number of opportunities to see where the Conservative Party stands when it comes to supporting measures that are actually going to fight climate change and create good jobs in our region. Time after time, they oppose reasonable measures that are going to reduce pollution, that are going to prevent the kinds of severe weather events that my communities have been impacted by, including Hurricane Fiona, including wildfires like we've never seen, including floods that have literally taken the lives of my community members. The Conservatives have a chance to support a concrete measure by voting for C-49, which will create good-paying jobs in clean industries. Why does that member oppose good-paying jobs in his community?
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
The people of Central Nova want to know why that member voted 23 times to increase their taxes and increase the cost of food. And after 8 years of this NDP Liberal government, even this Prime Minister's own MPs are admitting that people cannot afford to buy groceries. Lettuce up 94%, onion 69%, carrots 74%. In the last year of the Conservative government, a turkey cost $1.49 a pound. Now it's $2.49 a pound. That's a Liberal 67% increase. This Liberal Prime Minister is just not worth the cost. The Prime Minister has promised to reduce grocery prices. Why is he breaking his promise?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, the people of Central Nova are benefiting from a middle tax class cut we put in place back in 2015. They are benefiting from a Canada Child benefit, which delivers thousands of dollars every year to families who are struggling with the cost of raising kids. The people of Central Nova are benefiting from a new Canada Dental benefit. The people of Central Nova are benefiting from new measures that are going to build more houses. The people of Central Nova are going to benefit from measures that are going to help protect against further rises in the cost of groceries. I wonder if the people of South Shore St. Margaret's are starting to ask questions about why their member opposes all of these points.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
People of South Shore St. Margaret's are asking why that member's solution to the grocery food challenge is that they should watch flyers and clip coupons. But only one Liberal actually understands what's happening and is listening to their constituents when people are saying that they cannot afford to heat their homes and buy food. This MP, Liberal MP, said that Liberals have made it more expensive on people to a level that they can't handle. Even that Liberal believes that this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. So I'll ask again, will this Prime Minister keep his promise to lower food costs, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, I will be the first to acknowledge that we need to do more to continue to support low-income families who are struggling with the rising cost of living. But if the honourable member is asking questions about families who are having challenges trying to heat their homes, why did he describe our program that's helping cover the cost of heat pumps to get people off home heating oil as some fairy tale program? Mr. Speaker, we give upfront cash to families so they can cover the cost without having to put it up their own money first. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue to advance measures that are going to make life more affordable, that are going to mitigate against further rises to the cost of groceries, and are going to help the people who call my community home.
The Honourable Member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Mr. Speaker, it is Thanksgiving weekend, and 3 out of 5 Canadians are being forced to take healthy food out of their carts because of the cost. After 2 years of inaction, the Liberals' out-of-touch solution is to leave it up to rich grocery CEOs. And we know Conservatives have no serious plans to confront corporate greed. A year ago, the NDP successfully launched an investigation into food prices, and now we have a bill that will lower prices, not just stabilize them. So will the Liberals do the right thing, support the NDP's plan to lower food prices?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we are doing the right thing, which is to bring the grocery CEOs of the largest grocery chains in the country to the table, getting them on board with an action plan to help fight on affordability for Canadians. They've committed to implementing action plans that include discounts on a basket of basic goods, bringing back price matching, because some of them didn't have that before, and price freezes for Canadians. I don't think that those those measures are insignificant. I think they're going to make a tangible difference for Canadians, but Canadians will be the judge, and we'll find out in the coming days and weeks.
The honourable member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, accessible transit is critical for people living with disabilities, but in this country, transit is underfunded, so not meeting accessibility demands. In my community, this means the Transit Authority is pushing people into taxis that don't meet their needs. Because the Liberals are holding back federal transit funding until 2026, Canadians with disabilities are being left behind. Will the minister immediately release the public transit funding that's been promised and bring equity to transit?
Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my honourable colleague for her question, but also for her concern for people living with disabilities. One of the things that we know well is that when we invest in public transit, it helps people move throughout their communities, disproportionately benefiting low-income families, people living with disabilities, and seniors. That's why we made historic investments through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Plan to have unprecedented levels of federal money going towards building out transit projects, including accessible transit projects. That's why we move forward with the Rural Transit Solutions Fund to make sure that small communities benefit, and that's why we have now committed to a permanent public transit fund that will be coming in the years ahead to ensure we continue to make these investments going forward in perpetuity.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, teachers across the country deserve recognition every day for shaping the lives of our young people and encouraging them to pursue their ambitions. Can the PS for the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry update this House on the Prime Minister's award for teaching excellence in the STEM fields and what we are doing to support students and educators in this important subject?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from Richmond Hill for his important question, and I'm sure that all of us have had a teacher or many in mind who we know have shaped our futures in significant ways. The PM's awards for teaching excellence in science, technology, and math recognize elementary and high school teachers across the country who have meaningfully contributed to the lives of their students by supporting and mentoring them in school. Today and every day, we should continue to recognize the impactful role that educators play in setting their students up for success in their future endeavors. To teachers, we say thank you.
The member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
The ArriveCan scandal is back in the news, and reports are that the two-man operation that made $11 million off the Arrive scam were running a scheme that now has officials being investigated by the RCMP. After 8 years of this Prime Minister and his NDP Liberal government, Liberal insiders are getting rich, and Canadians are seeing that this Prime Minister just isn't worth the cost. When will this Prime Minister stop putting Liberal insiders and his friends first and start looking out for the needs of Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we expect that all contracts issued follow the laws and regulations of this country. Any allegations of misconduct will be investigated, and Mr. Speaker, let me assure all Canadians that the government is looking forward to any results of these reviews and recommendations. But Mr. Speaker, misconduct and wrongdoing will have consequences.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you'll have to excuse us if we're not just going to take their word for it. What we want to hear from this government is that the NDP Liberal coalition is going to vote in favour of an investigation at the Government Operations Committee so that Canadians can have transparency and answers. This $54 million boondoggle that saw insiders getting rich while Canadians are lined up at food banks is absolutely unacceptable. And now with the Mounties knocking at the door, they're saying, please just trust us and we're going to make sure all the rules were followed. They weren't followed before, and we don't trust that they're going to make sure that they were followed now. So will this out-of-touch Prime Minister have his NDP Liberal government?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
No, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we trust our law enforcement agencies, like the RCMP, to investigate any wrongdoings. We don't think that Conservative members who want to make a political clickbait out of this actually get to the bottom of any sort of wrongdoing. Mr. Speaker, we take allegations very seriously, but with that, Mr. Speaker, we're going to ensure that investigations move forward with integrity and not for conservative political gain. But, Mr. Speaker, wrongdoing will have consequences.
The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Well, Mr. Speaker, speaking of investigation, for 5 months the Liberals have pulled out all the stops to prevent an investigation into the shocking and incomprehensible transfer of notorious killer Paul Bernardo from a maximum security prison. Victims' families were not even informed of the transfer until it was already underway. So much for victims' rights. Canadians and victims' families' trust in our justice system has been shattered by this failure, and it's up to us in this House to restore that trust. So when will the Liberals stop preventing accountability and let the Public Safety Committee investigate?
Here, here. Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, the fact is, it was actually our motion that many parties agreed to actually conduct an to conduct a study on the issue of transfers. And the Conservatives are in damage control right now because, Mr. Speaker, they actually voted against it. I find it appalling that the Conservative members would use the issue of one of the most heinous crimes against women as a way to fundraise and create clickbait. Mr. Speaker, if they want to conduct this study, then support the motion that we put on the floor to do so.
The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's that Liberal member and her colleagues who voted against the Conservative motion to bring victims' representatives to committee 2 times, Mr. Speaker. They don't want an investigation. They want a whitewash. Now, I wish I didn't have to stand in this House and ask these questions today. I wish that killer, Paul Bernardo, was sitting in a maximum security prison today. I wish that this Liberal government hadn't stood by and let this transfer happen, but it did. Canadians deserve answers. Canadians' families deserve to know why and how this was allowed to happen. So the Liberals can let us get those answers by letting the Public Safety investigate. Will they? Yes or no?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we supported and put forward a motion to study these very transfers. The fact that the Conservatives would use heinous crimes and the suffering against women and violence against women as a way to block government legislation, which, by the way, Mr. Speaker, C20 would have tangible results to protect women in the workplace, sexual harassment. The Conservatives time and time again use clickbait instead of real action to protect women.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi, Bay James, Nunavut EU. Mr. Speaker, groceries are more expensive than ever before. Let me remind you of the last election campaign. The Liberals promised $1 billion over 5 years to Quebec and the provinces to fund school lunch programs, but we've heard nothing more about it. Inflation is hitting families hard. It's high time that the government finally respect this promise. When will the government finally give Quebec and the provinces the $1 billion it promised? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Everyone knows that things are a little difficult for Canadians right now, and we will continue to work hard to help. We are working closely with the provinces, including Quebec, to help in a variety of different areas, including school lunches. We will work together to accomplish that. The Honourable Member for Abitibi, Bay James, Nunavut EU. Mr. Speaker, 1.8 million children were already living with food insecurity last year, and the price of food keeps going up. It is high time that we help these children. There are many excellent organizations in Quebec who are waiting for the funding promised by the Liberals. And Quebecers support these organizations. 84% of Quebecers want the Liberals to keep their promise. When will the government give Quebec and the provinces the $1 billion they promised for school lunches? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Heritage. It is unacceptable that any child in this country not be able to eat appropriately. Everyone should be able to put food on the table. We need to continue to work with the provinces. We will continue to work together to correct the situation. That is very important for all of us here.
The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's banking regulator has reported that 1 in 5 mortgages at 3 banks are in negative amortization. In simple terms, homeowners can't afford to pay their mortgages. Mortgage rates have increased at the fastest pace in history because of this government's failed policies. Deficits lead to inflation, which lead to higher interest rates, which of course should be obvious to the NDP Liberal coalition right now, lead to higher mortgage costs. When are the Liberals going to acknowledge the pain their broken economic policies are causing Canadians and end these massive deficits?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Heritage Canada.
Mr. Speaker, let's look at the facts, because that's something that we do on this side of the House. Inflation is half what it was last July. We know for a fact that there are over 1 million jobs that have been created since the pandemic, almost 64,000 jobs alone in September. We know that life is challenging for Canadians, but we also know that the steps that are being taken are going to make life more affordable for Canadians, and that is the work that we are doing on this side of the House. If Conservatives care about Canadians and about affordability, why do they keep voting against every single measure we put forward to make life affordable for Canadians?
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate that the member across the way uses selective statistics. Yeah, 68,000 jobs got created in September. That's because there's less people actually working full-time. The actual number of hours worked has gone down by 0.2%. Same report. But many Canadian home owners now are clearly underwater on their mortgage payments, and the number is growing by 100,000 per month. After 8 years, a home affordability crisis is upon us. It's obvious the NDP Liberal government is not worth the increasing cost. Sooner than later, please, will the government get out of the way so Conservatives can fix what they've so obviously...
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, if we look at the history of Conservative mismanagement of the finance of this country, Canadians should be grateful that there is no Conservative government currently in control.
Hear, hear, hear.
The reality is that under this government, our AAA credit rating continues to be the hallmark. You look at the G7, we continue to lead. We continue to be a strong player in terms of where our credit rating lies, in terms of where inflation numbers are, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the supports that we are giving Canadians to help them today.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf, Jacques Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know that the cost of living is going up. For example, this week in the Journal de Québec, we saw the following. It's catastrophic. For the first time in 37 years, requests for food assistance are being refused. This shows that our society is facing a serious problem. And yet, during this difficult time, the Bloc Québécois wants to radically increase the second carbon tax. Shouldn't this government show a little humanity? Shouldn't it care more about helping our food banks? That's just common sense. The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to understand how exactly is it common sense to put a moratorium on renewable energy projects that would create tens of thousands of jobs, that represent tens of billions of dollars, and yet that's what the Conservative Party supports. That's what the Premier of Alberta is doing. My question to the Bloc Québécois, to the Conservative Party. What will they do about these renewable projects in Quebec? Do they stand against renewable energy projects in the Atlantic region and in Ontario? That's what I'd like to know.
Out of sequence here, just to be sure. I'm just looking at the table for a second because I've got... Okay. L'honorable député de Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, Westmount.
Merci. The Honourable Member for Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, Westmount. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our Liberal government is a proud defender of the Canadian supply management system. The dairy sector is a key pillar of communities throughout Quebec and a major engine of our economy. We know that the government has committed to fully and fairly compensating producers and processors who have lost market share due to recent trade agreements. How is this government helping the Quebec dairy industry and the dairy industry elsewhere in the country? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture. Well, Mr. Speaker, we're keeping our promise. Last week, the Minister announced $333 million for dairy processors. this is great news for our dairy producers and processors. It's good news for Quebec and Canada, Mr. Speaker.
Bonne fête. The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, after 8 years, the NDP Liberal approach to addiction is not worth the risk. According to Durham Region Health, opioid deaths have gone up almost 700% under this NDP Liberal government. Our loved ones are suffering and dying under this dangerous safe supply experiment. There are 3 Liberal MPs in Durham Region, and one of them is now the Minister of Health. Safe supply is a nice marketing slogan, but it's not worth the cost. Does the minister really consider a 700% increase in deaths safe?
Honourable Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, you know, this week was Mental Illness Awareness Week, Mr. Speaker, and this is the first question we've gotten this week from the Conservatives, even asking about the well-being of Canadians. So I'll answer the member by saying this. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we don't put in a false narrative between harm reduction and treatment. We look at Canadians and where they need help each and every day. On the overdose and toxic drug supply in this country, we will continue to use every tool we have: prevention, harm reduction, law enforcement, and treatment, Mr. Speaker, because we will be there to save lives.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Mr. Speaker, it's not a false narrative. It's 13 addiction experts. And if she would read the letters and take her advice, which clearly states we believe that is irresponsible for unsupervised, free government-funded hydromorphone to be allowed to continue. Mr. Speaker, in Oshawa, I've witnessed this travesty at firsthand. In the first 4 months alone, there's been 2,541 calls for service to downtown Oshawa. After 8 years, it's not that the NDP Liberal government has done nothing, they've actually made it worse. This reckless approach is not worth the cost. When are they going to end it?
The Honourable Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Mr. Speaker, it's not worth taking the risk on the outdated perspectives of the Conservative government when it comes to addiction. I'll quote Ben Perrin, the Public Safety and Justice Advisor of former Prime Minister Harper in this House, who sat in this House and said this: they're not aware, it's the opposition rehashing Conservative war on drug tropes that have long since been discredited and been found to not only be ineffective, but costly and deadly. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives are not worth the risk when we're here to save lives.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Mr. Speaker, after 8 years, the Liberal carbon tax was supposed to lower greenhouse gas emissions, but after 8 years, they're higher than ever, and the cost of fuel and groceries are unaffordable. After 8 years, the Liberals were supposed to have alternatives to carbon, like better transit and EV charging stations everywhere. But they failed on that too. And now whistleblowers say that nearly $40 million for clean technology was misdirected by Liberal appointees. So for the sake of the planet, will the Liberals admit they're making Canadians poor, Liberal insiders richer, and that they're just not worth the cost?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
For the sake of the planet, Mr. Speaker, Canadians and the world, frankly, can't afford the Conservative Party of Canada. With the Conservative Party of Canada gone are the programs to support more than 300 projects that are under construction for transit all across the country. Electric buses that have been announced in Alberta, in Ontario, in Quebec, gone on those programs. Gone are the programs to help people lower their energy bills, save money, so they can both fight climate change and fight affordability at the same time. Those problems, those initiatives will be gone under the Conservative Party of Canada. That's what Canadians can expect from them. Thank you.
The honourable member for Mississauga-Malton.
Mr. Speaker, climate change is one of the most pressing issues of our time, and carbon pricing is the backbone of our climate plan. It's been 1 year since the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada was named leader, and he has offered Canadians absolutely nothing in terms of climate policy. No plans, no solutions. In 2023, Canadians know how important it is to fight climate change. Our government has a plan to address both affordability and climate change, but the Conservatives don't have either. Our government's approach is working. Can the Minister of Environment tell us how a household can expect to receive next week, what they can expect to receive next week with the federal government's pollution pricing rebate?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Not only is putting a price on pollution one of the best way to fight climate change, which is why our emissions are down 50 million tons, Mr. Speaker. It's the equivalent of removing 11 gas-powered vehicles from our road. But next Friday, Canadians can expect to get, in Alberta, $386, $264 in Manitoba, $244 in Ontario, $340 in Saskatchewan, $328 in Newfoundland and Labrador, $248 in Nova Scotia, $240 in Prince Edward Island, and $368 in New Brunswick, which is a double payment, Mr. Speaker. This is how we're helping Canadians fight climate change and work on affordability.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's blood inventory is entering its 4th month of serious shortages, the first time this has ever happened. This dangerous situation is putting patients at risk. If collections drop further, elective surgeries may have to be cancelled. Now, experts warned the Liberals that privatizing plasma collection would jeopardize our blood supply. Allowing companies to pay donors is clearly hurting Canadian blood services. What is this government doing to protect our national blood supply?
The Honourable Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ensuring the safety and quality of Canada's blood supply is our top priority. Health Canada regulates the plasma sites to ensure plasma products sold in Canada are manufactured in accordance with strict safety standards. Health Canada will take action if those strict standards and regulations are not upheld. Provinces and territories determine whether or not how plasma is collected in their jurisdictions, including whether the sites pay donors for their donations, and a number of provinces, including Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia, do not currently allow for paid plasma donation. We're committed to ensuring that the collection of plasma and its process.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Tk'emlúps and Secwepemc First Nation are still waiting to find out from the Canadian Energy Regulator the reasons for which the energy regulator gave in to TMX pipeline and approved a new route that violates a key commitment to enter that territory of the First Nation. Without the reasons, the First Nation can't pursue its court remedy. But one thing they don't have to wait for is construction to begin through the most sacred areas of their territory, known as the Pipsel. The Pipsel area is essentially, for that community, what the Garden of Eden is for people in the Judeo-Christian tradition. Will this government instruct the Crown Corporation to stop destruction of the Pipsel, at least until the reasons are provided and legal remedies can be pursued?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to highlight that our government is the one that put UNDRIP into law. That is after the Conservatives refused to even recognize UNDRIP as something that was worth the support. And we have just recently, in the past year, also put in the UNDRIP action plan. We're continuing on that work. But as far as the decision that the member opposite's referring to, I want to really emphasize that this is made by an independent quasi-judicial body. It's not a government agency, and that they have said that they will be providing reasons for decisions shortly. We're looking forward to seeing that.
And that's all the time for question period we have today. Just a quick reminder before I go to points of order, just the usage of T-shirts with words on them. Just make sure that we try to be careful when we do those ones as well. Yeah, questions are, so we got points of order. The Honourable Member for Costa Bay, Central Notre Dame, then I'll go to Saint-Jean-Prat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've got some feedback from a member's constituents in Avalon, and I'd like to read some of the things he've had to say, and I'd like to be...
And can the member quote where in the standing orders, what rule that you're bringing up?
May I table this document? I'd like to read something.
Okay, so you can ask for the tabling of the document. The Honourable Member for Costa Bay, Central Notre Dame.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, the member for Avalon.
No, you gotta say you want to. I move that to table in order to table.
Transcript.
The Honourable Member for Costa Bay, Central Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, I move to table this transcript about some comments made by the member from Avalon. Yes, it is.
Questions going off. Is it agreed? No? I hear a number of no's. The Honourable Member, well, I'm going to go to the Honourable Member first. L'Honourable Député de Saint-Jean.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week, the chair, or rather the speaker, has talked a lot about the tone in the House of Commons and the importance of the opposition to direct its questions to the chair. I met those criteria today by asking important questions on a serious subject, and I did it in a calm way, and I sent my questions to the Minister of Immigration, so I'd like some enlightenment from the House. The Minister of Immigration did not answer, but rather the Parliamentary Secretary from another department answered me.
Sur le même, okay.
On the same, the Honourable Member for Joliette. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I found it frustrating that my question asked a very serious question about exploited foreign workers, and the minister sat down. It reminds me of what Emmanuel Latraverse said. They need to deal with reforming the immigration system. We have serious issues. He should be taking better care of his department.
Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, you'll be aware, I'm sure, it's a long-standing practice of the House that questions or answers to and responses to questions are at the discretion of the government in terms of who's going to be answering the question. If the member wants to, they can always ask for a late-night show, a post-adjournment to try to get more of a detailed answer given the limitations of question period.
C'est avec l'honorable secrétaire.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary is the one that I'm supporting. The government is the one that's responsible for deciding who is going to answer questions when the opposition asks them.
From the Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to table a document of a transcript that concerns a matter before this House. I think the carbon tax is hurting them a fair bit, this member said.
Okay, this is sounding like debate again, but I'll ask if people want to allow the document to be tabled. And anyone agreed? No, I'm hearing a number of no's as well. The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Mr. Speaker, thanks very much. What I'd like to do is seek unanimous consent from the House to table a document that it's the voting record that shows the Liberal member for Avalon voting to scrap the failed carbon tax, voting with the Conservatives.
Is it agreed? I'm hearing a number of no's as well. I hope this is almost the last one. The Honourable Member for Cumberland Colchester.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je veux mettre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to lay upon the table the comments from the member for Avalon, who said
switching over to heat pumps and whatnot, but many.
Is it agreed to table the document? Yes. No. I hear a number of no's. I see the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture.
On that very point, it is clear that somebody else is probably going to stand up and try and do the exact same thing. I would just ask in your indulgence to just consider speaking to the members of the opposition we know what they're up to. It's just.
Ultimately, I said to hope this is the last one, so that was my suggestion, that it be the last one. So there you go. Sorry. I see the Honourable Member for King Vaughan has her hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just was informed today that my vote yesterday on S12, after receiving confirmation from IT that I was confirmed to vote yay, was not recorded. I've contacted IT and they are looking into the matter, so I would like my vote to count.
Point of order. Okay, the Honourable the Honourable Deputy House Leader.
Well, I went back to my seat. You know, Mr. Speaker, I think that we're inclined to be supportive of this, but it would have been really nice if the member had reached out to us to let us know in advance that she would be doing this and requesting what I imagine is unanimous consent to have that recorded. Perhaps she could endeavor to do that so that when this UC comes up, that's obviously important to the member, we can treat it very seriously. Maybe she could just hold off and have her whip's office talk to our whip's office so that we could be coordinated and then bring this up at the next opportunity.
Here.
Monsieur le Président, l'honorable député de Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. From what I understand is that she wants a verification. It's not a request for consent. It's a request for verification with IT. She confirmed that her vote was not adequately counted, and I think that that's what's happening. I invite you to reflect on it and to take it into consideration.
I'm just going to consult for a second. Okay, I'm just wondering, the member, just quickly, if let's go back on the history of this, is that yesterday after the vote, the system did not log the photo of the honourable member for King Vaughan, so therefore it put a little tag on her vote. It was brought up by the bloc members that the picture wasn't there. We did make the call that day whether the honourable member was online. She was not online to be able to go one way or another. So I would probably suggest that we have her people talk to your people, and that she could come back and maybe do a unanimous consent motion just to clean it all up and make it all as clean as we possibly can. So that's good. The honourable member for Calgary Skyview.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this point of order, I just want to bring to the attention to the House that the Conservative Deputy Whip yesterday, after the vote, opposed members being able to register their vote in this fashion. That was the Conservative Deputy Whip who opposed others. So I believe that members of the Conservative Party should have a conversation.
All right, so I'll just again say that these people talk to those people and then come back to the floor rather than taking more time with this issue as we go. So I apologize to the member for King Vaughan, but there has to be some chat in the backstage. Okay, daily routine of business. Dépôt de documents.
Tabling of documents.
Projet de loi.
Introduction of government bills.
Ministers. Rapport.
Reports from interparliamentary delegations.
Secretary.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 34.1, I have the honour of presenting in both official languages 3 reports of the Canadian branch of the Assemblée parlementaire de la Francophonie. The first concerning meeting in France in January 2023. The second concerning attendance at a parliamentary mission to the UN in New York from March 14th and 15th, 2023. And the third, a meeting of the APF Political Committee and Working Group on Reforming the APF Constitution in Paris, April 7th.